Good morning, and welcome to the Universalist Church, in which love is the spirit. We are glad you are here, whether you're here in the sanctuary today or anywhere in the world. I'm Mike Zanta, one of your representatives on the Board of Trustees, and it's nice to look out over a sea of green. And I only have, the only green I have is a Manchester Road Race t-shirt, which I thought was inappropriate for church, so I didn't wear it. If you're a visitor, we'll hope you'll sign one of our guest books at either entrance to the sanctuary, or visit our webpage, westhartforduu.org, to learn more. There, you can use the contact page to get onto our electronic mailing list. Our electronic communications are the best way for us to stay connected. We look forward to helping you become part of the Universalist Church.
I have just a couple of things to let you know about this morning. First, the membership orientation that we have scheduled for this spring is a 2-session orientation. It's going to take place on April 21st and April 28th after worship. On the sign-up board, straight back out of here, as you go into the hallway that kind of crosses us, there's a gigantic board. It says sign-up board up above it. You can't miss it. So if you're interested in being a part of our membership orientation and having the option to join the congregation as a member, please do sign up and let us know you're coming. If you don't sign up and you show up, that's fine too, but we'd love to know about how many of you will be there. And I have one other announcement. This is about our food ministry. It served 811 families in the month of January alone. Our food ministry does pretty remarkable work. And so we always want to support it as much as we can. So let's kick up our heels, support the food ministry, and have some fun, because we're going to have a barn dance and potluck on Friday, April 26th at 5:30. Pop-up dance lessons are happening during coffee hour a few times before the event. You might have noticed that recently. You are asked to bring along your favorite covered dish and help get some food together for the food ministry: pasta sauce, oatmeal, canned fruit, beans, monetary donations, either cash or breeze. I'm sure that information will be sent out again. You don't have to memorize that list. There will be childcare, and cowboy boots are always welcome.
Looking forward to that. After worship, we'll have fellowship and Fisk Hall and through Zoom. If you need help finding your way to Fisk Hall for our fellowship hour, any member of the church will be happy to guide you. Just look for someone wearing a Universalist Church name tag. You can find the link for Zoom in your weekly news or our Breeze calendar. If you aren't getting the weekly news, please sign up for it on our website. And now, I invite you to take a moment to make your mobile phone silent, turn off your email, and put away your keyboards, and settle in for worship.
Oh
If you have your home chalice available, please light it with us as we light ours here in the sanctuary. We light our chalices to mark the beginning of our worship. The warmth of these flames, their light, their movement, their quiet exuberance, tells us that this is a time of loving connection, of reflection and wisdom, a time of making our voices heard in word and song, of creating silence together in which our hearts and spirits may relax into peace, a time in which we may return to the things that we know are of great worth. So in this moment, for this hour, let us reconnect to all that we know is holy. Our opening hymn is number 344 in the gray hymnal. Number 344, please rise in body or in spirit as we sing together. Please join me in speaking the words of our affirmation, our covenant. It's printed in your order of service and the description online. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated. So I was thinking about today's Time for All Ages and what we should do, and I had ringing in my head multiple stories all at the same time. Because in our sermon, we're going to be talking about fear, and there are all sorts of great folk tales and stories about fear too. And so I kept having to narrow it down and choose which ones, and I finally couldn't pick. So we're going to talk about two different stories, but they're quite similar. How many of you have heard the story of Chicken Little before? Okay, I'm not going to bother telling you the story, because you know the story of Chicken Little. He's outside, something happens, something hits him on the head, and he runs around going, "The sky is falling, the sky is falling," and convinces absolutely everyone that the sky is falling. There's actually a version of this story told in Finland that is a little less silly, maybe. A little bit scary at moments. That's appropriate since we're talking about fear. So once upon a time, there was a hen. And this hen was out walking, and as she was walking through the meadow, she walked underneath an oak tree, and she wasn't really paying that much attention, and an acorn fell and bonked her right on the head. And she thought, "Oh, the sky is falling to bits! The world is coming to an end! I have been clunked on the head by the sky!" And so she rushed around, telling everyone she knew. She saw the pig and she said, "The sky is falling to bits. It is the end of the world." Standing under an oak tree. But she didn't. And so she told the pig that the world was coming to an end, and the pig freaked out. "The world is coming to an end? What? The world is coming to an end? Oh my goodness, we have to tell everybody." So they ran around the rest of the farmyard and told everyone, the cow and the dog and the rooster. "The world is coming to an end," they said. And before long, everyone started running around in circles, screaming, "The world is coming to an end." And just outside of the farmyard, out in the woods a little bit, there were 3 good friends, a wolf and a bear and a fox. And the wolf and the bear and the fox watched all of this absolute madness of "the world is coming to an end," and thought, "I bet we could have a really good dinner if we were just a little clever." And so the 3 of them came up with a plan, and then they showed up at the edge of the farm and said loudly, "The world is coming to an end. Oh no, we need to hide." And all of the animals said, "Oh yes, we must hide." And the 3 friends said, "We have a place where you can hide with us, and we'll all be safe from the falling sky." And everybody said, "Oh, okay, that sounds great. Where are we going?" And so the fox and the bear and the and the wolf led them into a cave. And everybody went into the cave and huddled at the back. And the fox and the bear and the wolf said, "We're going to sit at the front of the cave and make sure that nothing comes in, that you all are safe." And so they sat there for a while, for a long while, and the world didn't seem to be ending. And so at some point, the pig said, I'm not sure that this is actually what was really happening." And they all started to turn on each other. "Why are we here? Who put us in here?" And finally, all the fingers and the hooves and the wings pointed at the hen. And the wolf and the bear and the fox all looked at each other, and one of them whispered, "It's her fault. We should eat the hen since we're hungry." And the next thing you know, the hen was gone. And then they started looking at each other and said, "Well, we've been in here a long time and we're still pretty hungry. That hen wasn't very big, and there are a lot of us." And so one by one, they ate the rooster and the dog and the pig and the wolf and the bear and the fox strode happily out into a world that was not coming to an end at all. And that is the end of the story of the farmyard animals. But it's kind of the beginning of the story of everything else. Let's join together in singing our kids out to their classes. It's number 413 in the hymnal. Go now in peace, may the God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Because we know better than the bear and the fox and the wolf, we actually like to share what we have instead of consuming it all ourselves. And so our voluntary offering, the sharing of our resources for our work as a congregation, is a spiritual practice for us. And we share what we receive with other organizations out in the world that help make this world a better place, that create beloved community. And so, this month we are sharing our offering with Swords to Plowshares Northeast. You can find more information about them in your order of service. They are an organization that helps do civilian gun buybacks and turns that material into wonderful garden implements that are used in agricultural training programs and sold to help support their work. To give electronically, you can use the QR codes on your order of service, or the links in the description, or the links on our website. Here in the sanctuary, our offering will now be gratefully received. May these gifts, so generously given, sustain the life of this community, the work that we do together, and help make a difference in the wider world of which we are a part. Thank you. Thank you. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we speak our congregational reading. It's number 658 in the gray hymnal. Number 658, called To Risk. I'll read the words in Roman type, and we can respond together with the words in italics. To laugh is to risk appearing the fool. To weep is to risk appearing sentimental. To reach out for another is to risk exposing our true self. To place our ideas, our dreams before the crowd is to risk loss. To love is to risk not being loved in return. To hope is to risk despair. To try is to risk failure. To live is to risk dying. Let's join in singing our doxology. Please be seated. Although this week no one has asked me to share anything on their behalf with all of you, I know that we have a few people who are recovering from surgery, entering into new treatment plans, managing life changes like job changes and moves. And so if we would just hold one another, and honestly, the whole of the world, in our hearts and our minds today as we pray and as we meditate, I know everyone would be grateful. Please join me in a moment of prayer and meditation. At the end of his life, Albert Einstein said, "Now I see that the only question is the universe friendly? I have begun to discover its physical meanings, but the question that haunts me is it friendly?" We each have different experiences. Sometimes the universe seems friendly. Sometimes it seems hostile. Sometimes it seems indifferent. We give our thanks for our Universalist ancestors who believed that at the heart of all things, the nature of the source of the divine is love. We have inherited this understanding that a caring, nurturing interconnection that moves toward the best for all things over time is real, that it holds us. And so, Spirit of life that is within us and among us, we are one of the means by which that love can be expressed. Our capacity to love, to act in love, to benefit us all, to move with compassion and justice, sustainability and kindness. We know, Spirit of life within and among us, that we make that friendliness real through our capacity to love, through our willingness to act in love. Let us take a moment in stillness for the prayers of our hearts. No matter how we each understand the universe to work, whether we are theists or atheists or agnostics, Christians or pagans or Jews or Muslims or Buddhists. No matter how we understand, may we hold close to love, understanding that that is a tie that we may share, that we may make real, and through that, that we may make the world a friendly place. May it be so. Amen.
Our first reading today is Our Culture Teaches Us, adapted from Richard Rohr's book, Everything Belongs. Our culture teaches us that everything out there is hostile. We have to compare, dominate, control, and ensure. In brief, we have to be in charge. That need to be in charge moves us deeper and deeper into a world of anxiety. As with our attachment to the system of producing and consuming, this anxiety gets worse as we get older. As the anxiety deepens, we become isolated selves, living the lie we believed to begin with. Everything out there is hostile. Fear of what I might not be, fear of what I might see, fear I won't be successful or accepted, or that I will be hurt. It has become a self-fulfilling prophecy. We'll never see the love we really are, our foundation, if we keep living out of our false selves of self-protection and overreaction. Our second reading is We Are What We Feel from Thich Nhat Hanh. We are what we feel and perceive. If we are angry, we are the anger. If we are in love, we are the love. If we look at a snowy mountain peak, we are the mountain. Watching a bad TV program, we are the TV program. So why do we open our windows to bad movies and TV programs? Movies made by sensationalist producers in search of easy money. Movies which make our hearts pound, our fists tighten, and send us back into the streets exhausted. We turn on the TV and leave it on, allowing someone else to guide us, shape us, and destroy us. Losing ourselves in this way is leaving our fate in the hands of others who may not be acting responsibly. We must be very careful to protect our faith and our peace.
What is the price of fear? What does it cost us? $13, $15 for a movie ticket? Your dignity? Over $800 billion in military spending? Peace of mind? Our ability to see other people as fully human? Perhaps even just the joy of living. I think it actually costs us at least all of that. I think it actually costs us more than we know. Fear has become a defining aspect of our time. I might once have said of Western life, but I think the truth is it is of human life on this planet at this point. And it grieves me because there's so much that is wonderful in the world. It's a little worrying that the crocuses and daffodils are already up. But I'm not going to refuse to enjoy them just because it's not quite the right timing. Fear can cost us the very things that we hold most dear. Our enjoyment in the spring flowers or of a warm sunny day. It can cost us all of the things that we hold sacred because it discourages us from being open to what is around us. The things that anchor us in community, and help us to discover meaning in our lives. Richard Rohr, who is a Franciscan friar, religious writer, and cultural critic, writes, "Our culture teaches us that everything out there is hostile. We have to compare, dominate, control, and ensure. In brief, we have to be in charge. And that need to be in charge moves us deeper and deeper into a world of anxiety." We often use the words fear and anxiety, if not exactly in the same way, as though they are very deeply connected. And there are some connections, but they are also just a little bit different. The theologian Paul Tillich says that fear has an object. It's a specific thing of which we become afraid. So, the dark, or spiders, or flying, or open spaces, terrorism, illness, and so on. But anxiety, he says, is just a little different. Anxiety has no object. It has no specific focus. It might be started by something, but then it just becomes this free-floating mess of worry and concern and agitation. Tillich says that anxiety is really about non-existence, about such profound uncertainty that we don't even know if we can continue. It is a sense of apprehension about the destruction of the self. And yet, whether we have fear or we have anxiety or an ugly combination of both, these things have become part of the undercurrent of daily life. So many of us, me included, move through the world with the sense that something, somewhere, is going to go horribly wrong, because everything is hostile and out of control. If my partner is 45 minutes late getting home from orchestra rehearsal, I start to wonder, is he okay? Did the car run off the road? Did something bizarre happen? Like, what's going on? And then he pulls in, or he calls me and says, "Hey, I got into a conversation, I'll be a little late." And I take a deep breath. But for that moment, rather than trusting that he probably got into a conversation with another musician like he usually does, some part of me becomes anxious and afraid and tremulous. Anxiety is what comes from being overexposed to messages of fear and danger. These constant messages about the malevolence of everything is bound to create a thrum of fear, anxiety, dread in our lives. I believe that if we experience the universe as friendly, it is because, as a general rule, we are being loving and generous with one another and with ourselves. And if we experience the universe as hard, as horrible, as threatening, it is because human beings are being selfish and cruel. Good and bad things happen all the time. That's just real. That's part of just being a biological thing. Sometimes things get eaten. Sometimes things get sick. Sometimes volcanoes explode. But those good and bad things that happen all the time, those don't have to drive us into an absolute terror that my partner is dead on the road somewhere because he's 45 minutes later than I expected. That's ridiculous, and I know it. But when I remember that I am part of a world in which there is love and kindness, that he is a part of an orchestra in which people enjoy each other's company and want to chat, I then relax and remember the universe is more friendly than I fear, because the human beings are more friendly than they are selfish. We can work together. We can support one another. We can shape our universe to be a friendly place, even when hardship is also real. Or we can do the opposite. We can disconnect from one another and the world, hear only what is being sensationalized in various media, seek only what we desire with no regard for the needs of others, and then we will find ourselves in hard and cruel universes. Richard Rohr continues, as anxiety deepens, we become isolated, living the lie that we believed to begin with. Everything out there is hostile. I'm afraid of what I might not be or what I might see, that I won't be successful or accepted or that I'll be hurt. All of that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, not all of our fears are based on lies or imagination. There are real things that we are perfectly justified in fearing. And there are also some things that we aren't sufficiently concerned about. The difficulty comes, though, when fear becomes irrational, disconnected from reality, slides into anxiety that permeates everything else. When I think about the messages that we receive every day about the threats, real or imagined, in our world, I'm not surprised to see human beings either attempting to control everything or cut ourselves off from it. Governments try to control their allies and their populace. Gated communities attempt to prevent the outside world from intruding into our neighborhoods, our front yards, our back doors. We've just come through COVID, and even before that, we were told all of these antibacterial and soaps and cleaners that we're told make us safe from illness. Doctors and scientists let us know that overuse of that actually makes us more susceptible to disease than less. But the world has had some things happen, both real and imagined, that make us think that we should use hand sanitizer like it's lotion. And that might not actually be the best thing that we can do. Fear is good advertising strategy. It encourages us to keep buying things to keep ourselves safe. A car that costs $25,000, oh, that's nowhere near safe enough. You need the impregnable tank built out of a cage of steel and bulletproof glass to keep yourself safe. Fear is good for consolidating power. It encourages people to give up their own power and freedom to someone else who says they will keep them safe. You might be thinking now about the wolf and the bear and the fox. Translator Stephen Ladinsky adapted these words from the writings of Meister Eckhart. I find nothing more offensive than a God, a power who would condemn human instincts in us that time, in all its wonder, have made perfect. I find nothing more destructive to the well-being of life than to support a power that makes you feel unworthy and in debt to it. Erecting churches to such a strange God will assure endless wars that commerce loves. A God that could frighten is not a God, but an insidious idol and weapon in the hands of the insane. A God that could frighten is not a God, but an insidious idol and weapon. If we are afraid, it is very easy for us to forget to band together, to protect one another. And those who would benefit from that do. Wolf and bear and fox took great advantage of the other animals' fears. Governments and industries regularly exploit and heighten fears to increase power and profit margins. The threat of hell or other punishments allow religions to control and abuse their believers. When we are made to be terrified, we buy what we are told will make us secure. We tolerate what we are told will prevent it from becoming worse. When we are told to be afraid of certain people, even without realizing it, we begin to wonder, well, are they actually okay? Do I have something to fear? In those moments, whether we want to or not, we forget that strengthening our communities, providing good education, helping one another feel and be seen as fully human will actually decrease crime, increase public safety, make everything just that much better. In those moments, it becomes easy to forget that living with a sense of gratitude for life and joy in that living is actually beneficial to our spirits, our stress levels, and our health. We can be persuaded to forget that caring for people other than ourselves helps to create peace for everyone. How convenient it is for all of the predators when we run into caves with them, imagining that we're safe from the dangers of the outside world, when instead we are hiding inside with those who actually want to eat us. As Meister Eckhart says, powers that frighten are not gods, but idols and weapons. Powers that encourage us to think and to understand, to plan and be ready, but not to fear and panic and hide. Those powers can build up the world, can keep us safe, can make us equal. One of the most common commands in the Bible, in both the Hebrew and the Greek scriptures, has absolutely nothing to do with lifestyle or crime or your responsibility to your neighbor. It doesn't tell us that anybody else is wrong and that we're right. One of the most common commands is just this: be not afraid. It's easier said than done. I know that. And it's been easier said than done for thousands of years. If this was in the Bible, think about how long human beings have been afraid of things and making one another afraid of things. It's not new, and we're not different. But we've been working on this same issue for such a long time. Thich Nhat Hanh, drawing on his Buddhist beliefs and foundations, says, "We are what we feel and what we perceive. If we are angry, we are the anger. If we are in love, we are the love. If we look at a snowy mountain peak, we are the mountain. Watching a bad TV program, we are the bad TV program. We turn on the TV and we leave it on, allowing someone else to guide us and shape us and destroy us. Losing ourselves in this way is leaving our fate in the hands of others who may not be acting responsibly. We must be very careful to protect our fate and our peace." Thich Nhat Hanh suggests that we need to be more selective about what we allow into our lives. It's not that we should disengage from the world. Remember, that's one of the unhealthy ways that we respond to fear. But instead, we should be aware without becoming overwhelmed or obsessed or programmed. So how do we do this? Well, in part, we do it by being a religiously active people, by attending to Unitarian Universalism and what we teach ourselves and one another, by coming here or listening to our worship in order to remember what it is that is of great worth. Gathering in community is a good start. It can help us decrease those levels of fear and anxiety. Time for worship and socializing renews our connections. It strengthens our support systems. It moves us beyond the limits fear would have us set for ourselves. Education, and, in particular religious education, is a necessary piece of this as well. Because it's not just about regurgitating facts or memorizing lists of words or sentences, but because it is education that asks us to make meaning for ourselves, that leads us into deeper and more intimate relationship with one another and the world around us and the great mystery within which we exist. Religious education changes what we let into our lives. Poetry instead of CNN. Maybe not all the time, but at least some of the time. Time meditating or praying or drinking a cup of tea in silence while appreciating the good things you have in your life. Recognizing that it is a little weird that the bulbs are up this early. And that's something we need to be concerned about, pay attention to. But to remember that we can, in fact, still appreciate their beauty, even while we have things to be aware of. Instead of worrying about the possibility of a fire in your home, you know your escape routes, so that, should it happen, may it not, you know what to do. For me, rather than sitting around fretting, is Don okay or not, I could always just call or text, find out what's really happening. I have the ability to do that. We can volunteer to help others rather than feel overwhelmed by the suffering that we see in the newspaper and on the internet. Part of what those things that want us to fear and have anxiety want us to do is forget that we have agency. So remember that it is your prerogative and your responsibility to be mindful of what you become, and in part what you take in. Richard Rohr tells us we'll never see the love that we really are, our foundation, if we keep living out of false selves of self-protection and overreaction. By limiting what fearful ideas we take in, we leave room for the fullness of our true selves, ourselves that are grateful, are connected, are loving. I don't know what answer Albert Einstein eventually came to, if any. But when I wonder, is the universe a friendly place? The only answer that I can come to is, if we make it so, then it is. We make our world friendly. And we can refuse to live in fear, regardless of where that fear comes from. We can choose to open our hearts. We can choose to feel the encouragement of this spring sunlight upon our skin. We can resist those who would have us be afraid. We can acknowledge that not everything out there is hostile. We can refuse to worship the idols and weapons of fear. We decide whether the universe is friendly or not. We make it so. If we pay the price of fear, our society will continue to grow more fractured, our prisons will grow larger, our communities will grow more dangerous and angry, and our lives will become smaller and sadder and harder. So let's stop refusing to pay that price. And instead, we can choose joy and love, setting anxiety and fear aside. Let us build community, reminding ourselves to be open to what is beyond us. May we choose meaning and peace over anxiety. May we create a friendly universe, beginning with our own lives and the lives of those to whom we are connected. And let us listen to that very old command. Let us be not afraid. Please rise, in body or in spirit, as we sing our closing hymn. It's number 396 in the gray hymnal. It's called I Know This Rose Will Open, and we're going to do it with a round. The choir will help lead us. So if you are somebody who feels confident in coming in at either points 2, 3, or 4 along the way, join in singing Where You Will. Let's join together in speaking the words of our Unison benediction. It's in your order of service and the description online. Engage with the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. And please be seated and remain for our postlude.